My name is Marcell Hanson, and you're listening to Small Habits, Big Changes. Let's dive in. Welcome to this week's episode. Hoping to shed a little light on some confusion that is out in the self-help or self-development field. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There is a lot of information out there, and there is a lot of poor information out there, but hopefully we'll clear a little up today and we'll see how you're doing on your journey. You know, there was a time where I just didn't know virtually anything I know today. And what I know from 30 years of fairly intense and fairly consistent learning and application and practicing is that knowledge comes from doing, from learning, from the act of learning. It doesn't come from listening or gathering information. There was a time when I was probably 15, 16, 17 years old, and I was naive enough to believe that I could do anything I set my mind to. My dad told me once, and I was like, okay. And it became my operating system and still is to this day. And I have practiced many things, put them into effect, and proven that to myself. And from that, and watching many others struggle over years of having all the information yet not executing on what they have heard or are curious about, knowledge comes from learning. It comes from doing. It does not come from information. You can have all the information in the world. You can. It's right at your fingertips, literally. If you are not applying the information that you've heard, it's not knowledge. Knowledge comes from after applying that information, integrating it, executing it, and coming out the other side, having experienced what happened. Whether it worked for you or not, it becomes knowledge. I think it's really easy to say you know when you actually don't. My stable table is several examples of that. Most people do know of certain rules or certain guidelines for hydration or movement or eating nutritious meals or quality sleep. Most people have heard information and they think they know the information, but that's where the real difference is made. You can only know that if you've applied it. And not just once or twice and then said it didn't work, consistently, maybe even indefinitely. Somebody said the other day, a friend of mine said, two fish swimming together in the ocean side by side, and the old fish looks over to the young fish and says, he asks, how's the water? And the young fish replies, what's water? There's a beauty in being naive. I loved it. It allowed me to jump in with both feet and really try some things on, learn some things, and really, truly gain knowledge. And gaining knowledge about yourself, in my experience, gaining knowledge about myself is the most valuable knowledge that I could imagine. Because from there, I can learn so many other things because I'm not encumbered by my own self-doubt or whether it be negative thinking or just different levels of esteem. I didn't experience that. I jumped right in because I didn't know any better, and it worked for me. I actually think that not knowing is equally as beautiful as knowing and acting. The worst possible thing that you could be, the worst place you can be, and I believe that the majority of North America is here. The majority of people listening to podcasts, reading self-development books, going to workshops, the majority of them are in this category. And it is sad because it perpetuates the industry in a really vapid, sort of empty way. But knowing and not acting is absolute ignorance. It's not just ignorant, is just not knowing, right? You don't know any better. That's great. To me, that's somewhat naive. I don't use it as a negative. It means you're a blank slate. You don't have a bunch of experience of saying you know something, not doing it, and then feeling the incongruency of that. If you know something, or you think you know something, if you've heard something, maybe you've even seen it, other people succeed at it. Maybe you've seen other people fail at it. You do not know, truly know what the outcome of that will be for you until you do it. consistently for a certain amount of time. Now, for some people, that may be a month. You may have to try something for a month to know whether it's really a fit. Maybe you have to try it for 2 or 3 months. Probably not more than 3 months. In most instances, you would know if you consistently applied something after 3 months. You'd know if it felt better. You'd know if it had a net positive or not, or if it was contributing to your life. This is where a real problem lies, is that many of you try something once or twice and you hit any resistance to it and you quit. You give up. You're like, that wasn't for me. It didn't work. I didn't like it. I didn't feel any better after I did that one push-up. In fact, I was sore. Well, great. Where does growth come from is a great reminder. Growth comes from discomfort. It doesn't come from being comfortable. Like, I did 10 push-ups on Monday. I did 10 push-ups on Tuesday. I did 10 push-ups on Wednesday. I don't feel any different. Well, then you might have to do 15. You might have to do them for a month. Maybe 10 isn't enough. If you can do 10 push-ups and the next day you don't feel it at all in your pecs, you might have to go to 20. I don't know. But that's where the experiment and the experience makes the knowledge. For everyone, it's going to be different. Some people work up to ever doing 1 push-up. Some people out there, little short limbs, they like to do 100 a day. There's no right or wrong. If you can do 1 push-up, a full body weight push-up, like, you're probably in the top 25 percentile of all of Americans. Good for you. If you can do 100, you're probably in the top 1%. But do you feel good after? Is it the end all be all? Hopefully you're doing other things. You're working your back as well, or you're changing your chest push-ups into more of a tricep push-up, or widening your hands. You could do all kinds of different push-ups, right? The point is not at all about push-ups. The point is you have to push through the discomfort. So if you're not at a point of discomfort, then either that's not the exercise for you, that's not the quantity for you, right? You may need to adjust it. There is no quick fix. There is no, I just take a pill and everything I think I'm supposed to be able to do, I can do. It's just not. It's a much more organic sort of journey in my experience. And from what I see, the experience of others, from what I hear from my clients, from friends, from colleagues, how I see the struggle. Of course, I have a different perspective. I'm on the outside of them. I always say, like, I'm not on the inside of you. I don't know how you feel. If you can articulate it, then I can understand quite a bit better. But I can only extrapolate the information that I'm given and the experience that I see and the outcomes that I see pretty consistently. And that is, people are very resistant to change. Many folks find discomfort just that, and that is their sign to give up. And that goes across the board, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in self-care, pretty much anything across the board. I see so many people give up at the first sign of challenge. And I get it, because we are spoiled. There is an endless amount, abundant amount of beauty around us, whether it be in nature, in other people, in animals and pets. There's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot to be grateful for. And if something isn't going my way, there is a mindset that I could understand that's just like, well, then fuck it, I'll just move on. Yet that just has not been my MO, because what I know is, from playing sports, from living life, from trying a lot of things, from doing a lot of things, from learning a lot of things, is that resistance, you can think of it a couple ways. That may be your gate to knowledge, your gate to the experiences. If you can get through that, that's the doorway, the window, the gate. If you can get through the discomfort, then the growth is on the other side. Now, sometimes that discomfort lasts a long time. I've been training with a trainer for, this is my 14th year, consistently. Probably have, I was just thinking of this the other day when I was driving, and there are lots of things that I still do that I did the first month I started training in the summer of 2010. Some of the same exact things. I do them differently, though. I do them with more awareness. I do them with a different balance in my body because my body has changed over the decade and a half. And some people are like, well, I get bored. I don't want to do the same thing. It's not that I do the exact same thing. The workout is different every single time, but there are elements of it that are very rudimentary. And that's important for daily movement. I think of Steph Curry, like, he takes like 500 shots in practice every day, or 2,500, or whatever the exorbitant amount is. It's a ridiculous amount. It's fantastic, but it's a ridiculous amount. It's Caitlin Clark shooting like hundreds of shots in practice, right? You won't shoot such a small fraction of that. You might take, I'm trying to think realistically how many shots you may take during a game. 20? 20 is a fair amount. I mean, there's 4 other teammates on the floor with you, right? So if you got off 20 shots, you're not even like 5% of what you practice every single day. And all that is to say that you will feel and have impact on some of the littlest things years and years and years later. It's really building. Sometimes you will have the impact and the recognition or the realization that day. And sometimes it will come years down the road. But this consistent action behind the scenes, practice when it comes to sports, practice when it comes to wellness, whether it's meal prepping, whether it's prepping your water jugs for the day, whether it's making your bed or getting your bed ready for the next evening's sleep, whether it's scheduling in your calendar that you're going to walk sunrise or sunset each and every day, and that you do. These are like hugely impactful practices, but it's not enough to just hear the information and be like, I know that. I know I should do that. There's a bit of shame or guilt within that, or I know that that's the best way to go. You don't. You just don't, because that knowing is very individual, and what works for someone else may not work for you. So applying what you hear, trying it, testing it, tracking it, tweaking it, and then absorbing it for what works for you is essential. I'm not going to say it's hard work. I'm not going to sit, before you and tell you that the last 30 years of my journey has been hard. I don't think it has. I think it gets easier and easier, and I don't even think it started out hard. Cutting sugar cold turkey one Halloween, I don't know, it's almost 20 years ago. That was challenging. I don't really think like, oh, that was so hard. It just is. Once I made a decision, that was it. And I think there's a real challenge going on in today's world because there's some sense of entitlement. There's some sense of comfort and just, I'm not sure, to be honest. There's a lot of things that could really impact one's ability to execute. There's tons of excuses that I hear, and they don't make sense to me at this point. I can't fathom someone saying they don't have time to work out, or they don't have time to meal prep. They don't have time to go to bed early. Like, they have so many things to do. It's like, you don't get it. We're not human doings. I've touched on this before. We're human beings. And honestly, if you are one of those people that think that you don't have enough time to do the things I've mentioned, stay hydrated, plan for workouts, execute workouts, meal prep for a good evening's sleep. If you don't think you have time for that, how in the hell do you think you're going to have time to be sick? You know what takes up all your time? Being sick. I've watched it in other people. Thankfully, not myself. It's the worst. Like, you have so much at your disposal and you are ignoring it. You are making excuses for it because you think, what, you're going to live in this state, the state of being that you are indefinitely. I think a lot of us do apply that naivete illy to that, thinking that we're going to live forever or that we'll feel the way we feel now in 20 years. You could. I feel better than I did when I was 30, or any age, actually. I feel stronger. I feel more grounded. I feel better each and every day. And I'm grateful for that. And it comes from an intentional practice. It comes from a lot of discipline, which I don't see as a negative in any way, shape, or form. It comes from a lot of domestic structure and a lot of balance within the polarities. A lot of free time, a lot of balanced structure, a lot of spontaneity, a bit of a routine. It comes from a lot of things. And there was years and years where my learning and my knowledge came from action, execution. And it's a fun time now because I'm learning that a lot of knowledge comes from times of rest, not exhaustion rest, but intentional rest, either meditation just being still, the times just before I fall asleep or just after I've woken up, these very still moments. I wish that for everyone. It's a fine balance that I am still executing on, that I look to manifest day in and day out, a sweet balance of motion or action and rest. Again, having a lot of information in your head on a notepad saved in your phone. I know for a lot of you, I think for a lot of you, that makes you feel like you are doing something. It makes you feel as though you're ahead because you're that much closer to executing. Most of you are not executing. You're not executing now, and you really have no real intention. You may say you do, but a lot of you will never put into action any of the information that you've learned. Not here, not anywhere, not in any book, movie, podcast, workshop. There will be probably 60, 70, 80, maybe even 90% of people that consume podcasts and books filled with great potential and really fantastic opportunities to engage and execute and to learn. You'll never put it into application. Or if you do, you'll try it once or twice and then chalk it up to not being for you, or that doesn't work for me. I didn't notice anything. You'll have some sort of superficial, contrived feedback about it when you haven't truly applied yourself and you haven't truly applied the data that is out there, tracked it, tweaked it, and learned from it. I hope that each and every one of you listening takes on the hat of a bit of a scientist, not just a researcher, but somebody that takes the information that they've learned and experiments. I think that's really what life is all about. It's about trying on things, probably about doing things a little bit longer than is comfortable to see the growth that comes from them. I think of how so many parents probably wish for their kids to be successful. And so if you think of like a 4-year-old learning to ride a bike, some kids are really hesitant. They see it for whatever reason, probably due to their surroundings, people around them. They see it as a scary task, as a scary thing to do. And so they're really hesitant. They might keep their training wheels on for years. Other kids jump on it, want to they got the strider and the glider, and they don't want to have training wheels on there at all. They're like, poo, and they just go. And there's every kid in between. I think most sensible adults, the first time their kid bites it on the bike, depending on its severity, whether they break an arm or skin their chin or tear up their knees, maybe their hands, the instinct to protect has them not wanting to do that again in the same fashion. Not wanting to do it again, but maybe wanting to wear a helmet or gloves or long pants or something that will help ease that injury the next time. Most of them don't say, you're never riding your bike again. Some may want to say that if the accident was severe enough, but most healthy parents want their kid to get back up on the seat, fall off a horse, get back on the saddle, because part of overcoming that experience is building to competence and confidence in such a way. I mean, you have to continue. We wouldn't have a single professional athlete right now if people just stopped what they were doing when it got uncomfortable, when it got hard, when they missed the shot, when they struck out, when they missed the catch, when they hit the ball out. Like, it just wouldn't happen. We'd have zero professional sports. And I think that's probably why professional sports are as intriguing and interesting for many people, is that those are the individuals that did execute day in and day out. They executed, and their reward is the recognition for their skill set, and they're playing the sport that they set out to. Right. And I think there's a lot of envy in that, and there's a lot of inspiration in that, and there's a lot of distraction in that. For some people, it's easier to sit back and watch other people do really well at something and be a cheerleader for that. Think of where you are. Think of the last time you did something for the first time. What was it? Was it easy? Did you pick it up really quickly? Did you struggle and maybe put it down? Did you struggle and continue? It's important to try new things. It's also really important to continue practicing healthy things. I know at the time of this airing, there are very few people listening right now. I also know that over time, that changes, that people will resonate and be attracted to a certain message, and they will come to listen. Whether you're listening now or whether you're listening then, which is also now the beauty of the digital world. I hope you find inspiration to take something on, whether it's new or old, in a new way, and be really disciplined about sticking to it and committed to tracking it and seeing what it does for you. For the few, the very, very few that will do that, I'm sure our paths will cross. For the rest of you, I really hope that you find something that speaks to you and that you commit to it fully. Because when one person does something that's hard, they accomplish something, they break through that, they continue to execute and apply themselves, it changes the vibration and the frequency of the entire planet. A very minuscule amount, like gradients, like rungs on a ladder. There is a continuation of that. And if you continue to do that and another person around you is inspired to do that, that vibration lifts. And that's what we're focused on, is raising the vibration of our planet. I wish you all the best. I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you for sharing your most valuable asset, your time, with us today. And yeah, get her done. Until next week, stay strong, be awesome. Thank you so much for listening today. If you feel any part of this episode resonated with you, then please consider sharing it with a friend who may also find value in it. And remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And before you go, did you know we have a fantastic free text community? If you want more bite-sized health hacks and reminders delivered directly to your phone, absolutely free, then text keyword YES to 206-483-2960. Again, that's keyword YES to 206-483-2960. And we'll see you on the inside.